Let's rate the Malta DLC. Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher. And today I thought I would give my overall opinion on the Malta DLC and give it a final rating based on my experiences with it. Let me know in the comments what you think of the DLC and if you agree with my final rating, and don't forget to subscribe for more content from me and Jurassic World Evolution 2. I think it's important to state before I start this rating that I heavily disliked the Dominion movie. This DLC does seem heavily aimed at those that liked the film as opposed to those who just want a good park building game experience. I also want to state that I have completed the campaign, and if you haven't seen my long campaign stream yet, I'll have a link in the corner. So where do we start? The paid part of this DLC gave us 4 new animals: the Atrociraptor, the Moros intrepidus, the Oviraptor, and the Lystrosaurus. I wouldn't classify any of these species as must-haves. The Atrociraptors maintain the same problem that they have in the movie. They are just Jurassic Park raptors. They do have nice skins with a camouflage-like pattern, but they are, at the end of the day, just raptors with slightly more brick-shaped heads. The Moro and the Oviraptor again have brilliant skins, but because they are so small, you'll barely see them during general gameplay. The game still doesn't have a good way of producing enclosures for tiny dinosaurs. The pig-like Lystrosaurus is okay, but has very boring and somewhat dull skins. All these animals have a few special animations to them, but not enough to make them stand out. The new skin variants are a bit better. The new Carnotaurus skin with this demon-esque coloration and broken horn is beautiful and by far my favourite skin for it. The Allosaurus is on the other end of the scale. It looks ragged, old, and sort of messed up. It's very plain as well. The new Dimorphodon variant with its fuzzy back is again okay, and I can see it working as a juvenile design for other Dimorphodon in a shared enclosure. The new Iguanodon is, however, very ugly. I don't know why it looks so weird to me, but I think the original Iguanodon in the base game is much better than the 2022 version. The campaign is by far one of the biggest disappointments for me. It introduced some very interesting mechanics and brought back some interesting characters, but failed to use them in any interesting way. Let's start with the premise of the Acquisition Center. The idea is that you have access to both legally acquired animals and the very much the opposite acquired animals. The idea is that you choose whether you want to work with the authorities or take your chances and risk with the underground. However, the premise falls flat almost straight away. Firstly, the game forces you to follow both paths during the campaign in order to progress, thus preventing you from picking the path you truly want to follow until the very end. And when you do get a choice, there really is not a point to it. Focusing on one side or the other does very little apart from give you a few different options of creatures to acquire. It has no major effect on gameplay. I was expecting some sabotage events or underground attacks, since we did have that Dino Poacher mission in the last DLC, but instead we get nothing. The presence of Dodgson, who speaks about 5 lines in total, as well as Kayla and Sonia Santos, again really doesn't result in any major story here. They speak a few generic lines when necessary and interact with Cabot slightly, but beyond that there's little competent storytelling here. The other mechanic this DLC added, the cargo ship, adds a very useful capability but is limited to just the DLC. The idea is that, like Jurassic World Evolution 1, you skip from island to island regularly during gameplay, returning to previous islands to improve upon them. This sort of gameplay is something I actually really liked about Jurassic World Evolution 1, so I was excited to see it back. In order to help you with this island hopping, you have a cargo ship which you can send dinosaurs to like a bank. You can then access this bank wherever you are, essentially transferring dinosaurs from one island to another. This is a great idea and something the first game really would have benefited from. The problem is that this great mechanic is limited to just this fairly small DLC, mostly because of the way the base game doesn't really have a well-made campaign to begin with. The campaign itself is also pretty uninspiring. You do a little bit across the 3 islands before the game throws up its hands, tells you to just 4-star the Malta map, and then that's it. There's not even any unlocks here to convince you to play further or to 5-star the islands. Oh, and it's riddled with bugs and glitches. I had solid crashes during my stream when using the acquisition center, and there have been reports of gameplay breaking bugs when using the cargo ship, such as the missions not recognizing when dinosaurs are put in there. While these problems may be patched out in the future, it is not acceptable for us to accept new content we're expected to pay for on top of a base game price to be launched with such glaring and gameplay breaking problems. This is Editing Fletcher here. So the game was patched on the 12th of December with claims of fixing stability issues. However, from what I've heard from folks, the crashing problem is still very much there, and it seems to have spread now to the challenge mode maps. So it seems like this is very much a Bethesda patch, breaking more than it fixes. The next 2 sections are most important for me as they refer to sandbox gameplay. The 3 new maps are a mixed bag. The Malta map is brilliant. It's large, well shaped, and features natural terrain height differences, making it perfect for park building. There's also a few features on the map, such as this little ruin on the hill that adds some interest to the map. The Greek map, with a name I can't pronounce and won't even try, is however almost the entire opposite. It's very small. Now, I love small maps. Some of my favourite maps from the first game are things like the Tacanio research facility, but even to me, this map seems too small. I feel an opportunity was missed here to give us the entire island. It also has nothing on it that makes it very interesting. It's just a Star Trek symbol shaped area of flat ground. The final map, the Natural Lagoon map on Corsica, is however the biggest disappointment. The area around the lagoon is fairly limited in terms of space, and the only other part for park building is located above on this raised plateau. But the biggest issue with this map is the lagoon itself. It is a useless feature. The first problem is that it's a preset structure. You cannot alter anything about it. The viewing galleries and the hatchery are in preset positions. These buildings also do not change based on the era you play in. They will always be the Malta pattern, and you can never change that. You can also never change where they're located. You can never remove them. The lagoon itself is also very large, which makes decorating it sort of pointless. The internal space is just too big to use our existing decorations on because we don't have any very large submersible decorations. And the pieces for the sides, again fairly useless. They can only be stuck on these little piers, and they just look so sad stuck there on their own. In total then, we have 1 good map, 1 meh map, and 1 rubbish map. Not great for sandbox building. At first, I was really looking forward to the new Malta building set. However, once I got my hands on it, that quickly turned to frustration. The set is yet another facility-aimed building set, making it 3 we now have. All the structures have a distinct utilitarian facility feel, making them very difficult to use in a more tourist-focused park. Some buildings, like the hotel, the fort-like bunker, and a couple of others could be used in a tourist-like park with some work, but that really is all. The rest are all fairly facility aimed. The decorations the DLC adds are equally problematic, a range of rubbish dumps and building materials that would work well in a rundown facility, but not really a tourist park. The only pieces that do are the low wall ruins and this cool little castle tower. I wish we had more of these pieces and less of these rusted post-apocalypse buildings and pieces. There's also a lot of buildings missing. There are no Malta versions of the viewing tower or some of the other basic buildings. There is also no Malta skin for the amenities, so these amenities will stick out distinctly in any Malta park. There is also no Jurassic World World or DFW or Jurassic Park version of the Acquisition Center. So if you want to play with the black market system on in Sandbox, you have to build this really obvious Malta building, which will obviously stick out if you're building with a particular era or location in mind. There's also no fountains and no planter designs. On the whole, it feels like an incomplete set, which could have been really good for sandbox building if it wasn't so facility. So what is my final rating for this DLC? I feel disappointed with it. There were many interesting things that this DLC looked like it was going to do, but it failed to make effective use of the elements. It threw new content at us, and it seems Frontier expected us all to just enjoy it because it's Dominion content. The problem is that once you move past the top layer, you find beneath a vacuous and empty experience, much like the movie, with elements that could have been so much better used, with just a little more development or imagination. For me, I would give this DLC a rating of 5 out of 10. It's not awful, but I don't think it's worth $15.99 either. I would advise people get this only when it's on sale. So let me know in the comments what you think about the DLC and where you think it could be improved. And while you're doing that, throw us a like and subscribe for more content from all of us at Triclaw Gaming. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.